All right, greetings. I wanted to walk you guys through some steps here on processing some photos. So I've got a shoot here that I did a little while ago, CEO editorial project, and we're here in Lightroom. Brought this stuff in. I'm gonna down here at the bottom. This is what ended up getting submitted to the magazine. So we gave a few different looks there for them to choose and pick from. Um, and we're just going to walk through some raw files and kind of look at how we got there. So this was processed, these here were processed in Capture One and then brought into Lightroom. Oops. Let me just get all my keystrokes messed up here. There we go. So we'll walk through a raw file and kind of get ourselves to the front end of what one of these looks like here. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do, let's go find our image. All right, so the first thing when we're in the develop module, things that we wanna be thinking of, we wanna be looking at our histogram here and kind of how that plays out. We really want to be also looking at this profile component here in Lightroom. Adobe's Camera Raw engine has changed a lot in the last couple of years. It's gotten a lot better. It's still not as robust as I would like it to be, but it's much better. But this, depending on how we profile our photograph, and the profile you can really think of like as a different dialect in terms of like language, it's going to have a big influence on where our highlights and our shadows lie. So like in this image here, this white shirt is almost blown out. I mean, it's just a start white shirt, so it can be pretty crisp, but it is the brightest thing in that image. I have our highlight warning on. You can see there's a tiny little bit of it twinging up there at the collar. When I turn that on and I get the red, a little fringe going on here, but I don't have a lot of detail in there. Ultimately, that needs to get toned down so that it's not quite as vibrant. It's not terrible, but we need to tone that down. So if we just look and start here, if we even just switch to, so we're at Adobe Color right now, zoom in. Okay, right here on the collar, we're at 98, 98, 99% looking up here in our histogram. Okay, so if I roll over and I just switch this to standard, I've gained several points there, right there. This has become just a tiny bit more gray. My highlights are in line there. And if I switch it out to like Adobe Portrait, it's going to shift it again. Still is keeping this a little not quite as hot. And then I'm probably up here in the skin tone, I'm going to guess, I'm going to get a little bit better skin tone color. So it does, it kind of flattens out there just a little bit. And if we go back to Adobe Standard, skin tone is similar there in both of those. So I'm going to leave it there in Portrait. You can pull up this grid and you get a bunch of different options. You know what I mean? You can just go vivid right off the top. We're still not losing any detail in there. But it's just basically you can see how the histogram gets compressed and changed by switching to those different ones. There's also a flat profile, which is really nice. Look how smooth that gets. I mean, low contrast. That shirt now has a lot more detail in it. So this is a great way of being able to really work with your color and being able to expand things and play with them. Camera neutral is one that I would use a lot in previous versions of Lightroom. That would usually be my go-to, is that. And look how low up here in the histogram, we're at a 94.2, 94.5, 96.6. So that white is much more in control. And then in our processing, we can go ahead and do more work with that. All right, so what I might do here is just looking at this, I'm gonna bump my shadows up just a tiny bit, and I'm gonna get a little more contrast out of this photo. Go. We can play with our white balance if we want and shift it one direction or another. I'm gonna warm it up just a tiny bit there. Add some clarity. And now I can really kind of play with my whites too and like where they play. I'm okay with having some highlight. blowing out there in the sky. That's probably fine. Could add a little vibrance or take that away. Saturation. I don't tend to do a lot with saturation with portrait work, so I'd almost leave this at a negative maybe, and then bump my vibrance up a tiny bit. That could be a cool look. Let's look then at doing, so now I'm looking at this and it's feeling a little too poppy, so I think this vibrance needs to come down. There we go. And let's go ahead and add some masks to this thing. So let's add an adjustment brush, and I'm going to go ahead and do some dodging and burning. So I'm going to burn. So I'm going to opt to darken, increase my brush size here, and click and hold, and just start kind of feathering some of this in. Lightroom doesn't work with layers, but we can go back and adjust kind of how a mask looks later on, and we can pick up our brush and then choose where we're painting in to something. Some of this can be done with a vignette also, but this is a nice way of having much more control. So let's see if we take this then and tone it down just a little bit more, start to see where our darkness is. Mouse over this, it'll show us where our mask is there, and can make a new one. Let's go a little bit there in the suit, like that. Maybe I want to zoom in. I just did spacebar zoom in. I want to brighten up his eyes just a little bit, so I can do a new. And let's go dodge to brighten, increase the exposure, increase the contrast a little bit, make our brush size smaller, and then also let's turn down our feather. Let's put our auto mask on. And just can look back. Do I like what I see? Do I not like it? That is looking pretty good. Maybe I want to come in here and press K again to get my mask to pop up. And I'm just gonna bump the highlights up. There we go, a little bit. A little bit of clarity maybe. And maybe a tiny, I don't know if dehaze, oh, terrible, bad choice. Undo, Command Z. All right. Spacebar again to zoom out, press K. So now, just look here, before, after. So really quick edits there to kind of get you into a place where something is making, looking a little more clean, a little more precise. I think in my final image, let me look back at that. In one of these, we can tell here that warmed it up a little, quite a bit more. I muted out the blue color that was here, really played with my background quite a bit to create more of a spotlight effect on my subject there, and to kind of control that a bit more. I had a black and white version of this also. The client didn't want this in black and white, so I didn't offer that up, but I had a black and white version that I liked quite a bit. I thought it was quite strong. So by giving my client different variations, they're able to then to make some choices and that kind of thing. And I'm not going to say that any of these are more right or more wrong, but from a graphic design standpoint, how are they going to use them? What are they going to do? Where are they going to choose to crop? All of those are choices that are really beyond my control, but they do give some clarity there. So let's look and see. I think it felt like I pulled another image here. Let's just take a look at this, and let's just do some quick dodging and burning. I had another one that I liked better. All right, so if we dodged and burned this, um, you can just see right off the get-go here kind of what is going on. I mean, you can get a little aggressive with the whole thing if you wanted to be. And some of this is work that we would do with a flash anyway when we're out on location and being kind of controlling where our light is coming from and what we're doing with it. I might opt to crop this. Crop it a little bit tighter. Other things we might do to this image here would just be, we want to bump the shadow up just a hair. Now that we've kind of selectively decided where we're going to darken, definitely add a little more clarity to that. We can play with a little warmth or cool. And then we can also play over here with our mid-tone contrast with our tone curve. And this is a really useful tool for kind of deciding where our tones are going to lie and what's going to be brighter and what's going to be darker. And this gives us a lot of control of what our image is ultimately going to look like. I end up using this tool quite a bit. What do I really want to do here? Let me... and back step here just a couple. There we go. And what's also cool about this tool is I can jump in and let's say I just want to work just that forehead tone and either bring that up or down. I can use my slider tool here and mouse up or mouse down, and I'm just working that particular tone itself. And that can be really very useful little component there. So I use tone curve a lot for kind of fine tuning and tweaking my image. Of course, we also have hue, saturation, and luminance, and then we also have split toning. So if we wanted to, I wouldn't necessarily split tone this image. Maybe I might add something to the shadows, but the shadows are already very cool in this. Probably wouldn't add anything to the highlight in this photograph because the highlight is the shirt and his face. So that could get a little weird looking. If we added, we blued him up here or something, might get a little strange. And of course, we can always turn these options on and off right here and look at them. All right, I hope this has been helpful. This feels like it's running a little long, so I'm going to stop it here. Reach out with questions, and we'll go from there. Remember to trust that histogram and use those masks for more interesting edits.